we have a choice. So never find ourselves saying that, I'm just like that, I've been hurt before, that's why I don't believe in investments anymore, and stay in the victim mindset. That's not how we want our life to be, right? Make the right choice.
Hello and welcome to the Connect to Marriage podcast. I'm Gary and I'm your host for this episode. In this episode of the Connect to podcast, we'll be tackling questions that couples ask about marriage, communication, and conflict, and so much more. We hope you'll keep tuning in to learn with us as you grow closer, deeper, and stronger in your marriage. Money. Either we learn to manage it or it learns to manage us. In the last episode, Choon Jin, also known as CJ to us, shared some keen insights for couples to understand their own money type. He covered the first 4 of the money types from warrior to martyr. If you did not catch part 1 of that episode, I would highly encourage you to do so. Today, we'll cover the rest of the money types with CJ. Plus, he will be sharing some tips on how to manage money as partners for life. So welcome back to our Connect to podcast, CJ.
Yeah, it's good to be back again, Gary. I'm happy to take us through the rest of it. There are 8 types that we talked about. Quick recap for the rest who may not have a chance to listen in. Like Gary said, please go and listen to that. The first 4 types we talk about is fairly intuitive about describing how we are with money is the money innocent, the victim, the warrior, and then finally the martyr. So we will unpack the remaining 4 today.
Perhaps we could start with one thing. What is one tip you and your wife practice when it comes to money? And how does that help you significantly to reach your financial goals?
Wow. So obviously, you know that when you're a coach, you try not to coach your wife. So I do not coach my wife with this, but she went through a similar process to understand the 8 types with one of my fellow money coaches. What really helped us in that was to first have a conversation about what are some of our predominant types itself. So one type that show up for us is one of the things that we're going to talk about, which is the money fool. Let me just dive into the remaining 4. You have heard the first 4 from the first podcast, and I just did a recap on that. The remaining 4, the creator artist. So this is the type where it's more prone to detach yourself from material world. And money is a spiritual thing to you where it represents like you have a love-hate relationship with money, right? Because think of the artist who's selling their painting. And if I'm an artist and I'm selling my painting and collecting money, sometimes collecting money to some of these artists means that, hey, I'm tinting my vision. My art should be free for the world to enjoy. Now, not necessarily a wrong thing, but then if you give all your wonderful art pieces for free, then who's going to take care of the family and who's going to give you the means of living itself? So they have this love-hate relationship. They are prone to detach themselves from the material world. Money sometimes has a bit of a negative connotation around that. So there's a creator artist. And then there's also the money fool, is, as the name suggests, is more of your gambler, looking out for a windfall. They generally do not plan for the future. You want to focus on the here and now. Like high risk, high return is great, it's exciting. Maybe I sidetrack a little to talk about how also some of these experiences or some of these money types that are us, that's running what we call the money show, is not entirely conscious, right? I've always saw my dad doing a bit of gambling here and there, and for whatever reason, when I was young, I told myself, say, no, I'm not going to do all this, any of this gambling stuff, right? No 4D, no Toto and stuff like that. But like it or not, seeing that had a little bit of an imprint on me. And when I was growing up, in many ways, sometimes the money fool will come and take over, make a totally senseless investment decision and lose small amounts of money, thankfully. But when I did this whole work as well, I realized that the money fool was moving to the front of my money stage a lot more than I cared to admit. So these are the things that I guess when we are thinking back, the 8 money types, just a way of articulating what's going on. Let's give ourselves some slack and be compassionate, right? Just know that you have a choice to think around where you are with your money at any one point in time. This 8 types just gives us a language for it.
Thank you for sharing that and your honesty. I think sometimes we don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
And we think like the last time we are warriors and very good stewards of our finances, but reality is we are fools when it comes to money. The first thing is to just humbly say, okay, this is me. I need to do something about it.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it, right? And that honesty with ourselves and then, of course, with our spouses will help us hopefully get all our money matters in order. Let's wrap up with the last 2. The next one is what we call the tyrant. The tyrant is someone who is usually wildly successful with money. And you could say that they are, in many ways, have the warrior attributes, right? but they chase money in a way to be able to use this as a sense of significance. Sometimes we say that the tyrant's mantra is how much is enough? $1 more, right? Because they don't know when to stop. In my work with people who exhibit a tyrant, sometimes they use it to kind of buy relationships. They will have conversations with their parents and their kids. Say, I'm the one giving you the lifestyle you have now, and right, you got to listen to me, right? In some ways, you got to even reciprocate by loving me, but that is not how the equation works, right? So tyrant may have a lot of money, but unfortunately, if you're stuck in that frame of thinking, you never really know how to enjoy your money itself, because it's all about love, status, power, and all that is attached to the sense of having more money.
I think this is something that plays out, especially in a relationship where one works and the other chooses to be a stay-home dad or stay-home mom. Where
That's right.
I can imagine this being used like, I'm the one making money. How come you are going to spend it on this? How and it becomes a little manipulative to the relationship and not helpful at all.
Yeah, so that's a great observation. And of course, although we have many double income families, there is still the reality that one works and one don't. So you're right, some of the tyrant bits can come in if we are not conscious, and also the martyr bit, right? Because they feel like, oh, I'm responsible, I'm the only one taking care of it. The last one will be what we call the magician or the wise person, if you will. This is where we sometimes say is one of the more ideal money types, okay? Where they made peace with their personal history and money. And they know what money means for them. There's partly to take care of family, to give to others, or whatever balance that they find, right? So they are clear of what money actually means for them. So obviously, having a clear idea of what money enables you to do will help you better manage that as well.
Thank you, magician. Sometimes I think magician just pulls money up from some nowhere.
Yeah,
but,
man.
But it's about here being the
being wise
peace.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think one of the interesting things for us as a family, even for my wife and I, early in our careers, we decided to go into social work and also to start out something that was more charity oriented. And we didn't have much money during that time, very little.
That's right.
And when our son was growing up, we were very particular about money, I must admit. And we realized he began to pick certain, what I think, unhealthy traits from us. When we would spend it on someone, have lunch with someone, he would always say, did you pay for lunch?
I see.
Did you spend this? How much even if it was for relatives? And we felt after a while, even though as a young child, he kept asking about our finances and we realized it wasn't healthy. And so we had to educate and also teach him that actually we do have finances. But I realized that growing the environment that we grew up in, our children grew up in, and how we relate to money affects everyone.
Absolutely, right. That's such a great point, right, Gary? Because like we mentioned earlier on, and you asked me at the start of the first podcast, why is it so difficult for couples to manage money? One is not only the significance it gets attached to, but it's also that we are not taught about it. So like it or not, our children are being taught. For those of us who have kids and all that, like it or not, they are watching us and they're picking up some of those things. And that's great observation, Gary. And we need to be conscious of, are we modeling the right messages? Because in our mind, we make some of those decisions and all to be more prudent with money, but the kids may see it as something quite different. So having some of those conversations, even with our kids, is important, right?
But I think the willingness to get educated is important because we were not financial savvy at all. And for us, it's got money in the bank. Oh, got some money. Okay, can do this. Got any money, but no other understanding of investing, of financial management.
Right,
we just didn't have that. And maybe also the background that we grew up with, it wasn't talked about. And when I started working, I have to say this, my first kind of investing was from the bank that was trying to push a product. And I had no clue, and I just trusted the bank, and that was the .com bubble era. And the money really just disappeared, and the banks were just, all they could do was just say sorry. And and that caused us to be very wary about any kind of investing.
That's right.
So a bad experience like that. But I'm so glad that having you here in these two sessions, because it's really about proper education. Share with us, how do you and your wife approach money differently?
Marriage is one of the most rewarding things in life. Yet, navigating marriage as newlyweds or an engaged couple can sometimes get overwhelming. Whether it's managing expectations of the in-laws, getting a good grasp of your family finances, or establishing good habits of communication and healthy conflict. Focus on the Family Singapore's Marriage Preparation Program aims to help you build a solid foundation in the early years and prepare you for the adventure of your life. Visit family.org.sg/C2marriageprep for more information today.
Yeah, happy to share that too, right? But just wanted to go back to what you said, Gary, because I think that's so important. You see, like you obviously made a bad decision around your investments, but it's always what we do with it after. Because Gary, you could have jolly well become what we call a victim or continue to be an innocent and you shy away from all these things. But obviously, it sounds like you have worked through it. And of course,
After many years, when I saw the interest coming from the bank's interest every
Not working out, right?
year, it's like, oh, there goes a piece of steak, and then that's it, your interest is gone.
Yeah, but it is that willingness to look at it and say, hey, this is not working out. What am I going to do about it? Right? So, which is why that's really, really key. Please don't hide behind all of these labels, everyone, but it gives us a language for truly, courageously talking about what is needed. So, back to me and my wife, I think I shared a little bit of the money food. I think she also had a little bit of the money food. So one of the things that we realized when we went through this was that, hey, we are both quite excited about the short-term easy thing, retire at 40 things. Not that it's wrong per se, but how do we approach that was something that we had to take a relook at. We are invested in stuff that may not have been things we'll get into if we were researching it a little bit more. Okay, in all honesty, more me than her, right? But because her fool was there and is quite agreeable when we make joint decisions, and then, that's cool, right? So I do not blame her for some of those bad decisions we make, but that's how it is. So to the earlier point that we made in the first podcast, sometimes different money types obviously cause conflict. But what is also dangerous is whether the same money types can cause us to go in the same way wrongly, right? So this is where my wife and I were working around, say, okay, if both our money fools are going to run that decision around the investment, we're going to get in trouble, right? So which is the character that's speaking before we make some of those more key investment decisions. And to tips, I often get this, but the honest truth is it goes back to the basics. Have that conversation with the wife. Be open about what you are feeling. Be also, like I mentioned earlier on, be understanding because we all have different histories around money. We picked up different things from our family experiences. And that goes beyond money, isn't it true? I mean, my marriage prep, one of the things that we really had to talk about was how our family of origins gave us different ways of what we expect our family to be. Same with money. So those basics don't go away. This 8 types hopefully just gives us a language around it to be able to think around and talk around it.
Thank you so much, CJ. So one important truth for all of us is please have conversations. Don't shy away from it.
That's
Especially if you put money into some investment or something and that goes south. Be honest, be humble, and address those things that y'all can go through together.
Yeah.
If not, please go for some education. Don't try to teach your wife or try to teach your husband if you know that was going to cause more tension. But have some education so that we are all on the same page when it comes to how we handle money.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, Gary, right? Having heard the 8 types, what are the 2 or 3 money types that you think could be more quote unquote ideal? So we do a quick run through again. For all our podcast listeners, there is the money innocent, the victim, the warrior, the martyr, the creator artist, the fool, the tyrant, and the magician. So is there an ideal money type that we need to go to?
I can tell you what is not ideal for me. I'm definitely not the creator artist one. So
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us in different stages of life, obviously started with the innocent, then the victim when those things go on. But finally, after many years, deciding, okay, we need some kind of education to learn how to manage our money well. So there's certain elements of some warrior. I would like to think magician for most part, but my wife may say something else. But yeah,
Please have that conversation.
Yeah, we have conversations like that. So these 8 points are so essential for us. In fact, yesterday, just my spouse and I we were just talking about our finances and what do we do with the money that we have.
That's right.
It's not. Is it just for us to keep and feel happy about ourselves, or is there a portion we also can help others in need? So there's a combination there. Being a good steward, being a warrior, yet at the same time, I would say that the creator part is to explore, to dream things, and to sow in those areas, although not ideal, but we know it's needed and necessary and healthy as well.
You are on the way to become a money coach yourself, Gary. So that's exactly spot on. And if I could just make sure we unpack that a little bit. So the magician or the wise one in some ways is really the one that knows why we make the money we make, right? What's the vision around the money itself? And then the warrior enables us to be able to make sure that we execute that vision, the strength of the execution itself. And then we always say that we need to bring in a creator artist from time to time to take a little bit of that risk, to connect back with the vision and what's needed itself. So you're exactly right. We don't have an ideal money type per se, but those three that you mentioned are things that we say that we should be conscious of, that are largely kind of taking center stage in our money life. Like we said, sometimes you can't help it, the fool will come. There are some areas where, oh, I'm an innocent all over again. Or sometimes we over push it and say, oh no, I'm becoming a martyr, not taking care of myself, taking care of others. Those conversations will happen. But if we have those three most of the time, especially in key money decisions, then I think we should be in a good space, right? And it's for couples to really kind of agree to say, okay, who's showing up here, right? Who do we need to be in this particular decision itself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, CJ. In each podcast, we address a frequently asked question that couples have about dating and marriage. Today's question is, my husband is often tempted to take the easy route when it comes to money. Example, hoping to strike it big with lottery. It's like he thinks the money will just fall into his lap and it's driving me crazy. I prefer to plan and save for a rainy day, but it doesn't occur to him at all. And I always seem to be the one saving to make sure we have enough. How do we get on the same page where money is concerned?
Yeah, so let's go back to the money types again as a basis of just surfacing some of those things. Easy route comes to money, which archetype or which money type comes up for us?
Full.
Yeah, exactly. And the wife who's saving for a rainy day, taking care of family would be the
Warrior.
And maybe a bit of the martyr, right? Oh, I have to take care of the family. No one cares. So obviously, we talked about in the first podcast when there is a tension in which what money means for all of us. That causes the rift and all that. So then it's really for the couple to say, okay, what is needed at this point? Can I take a little bit of money to have some fun and do a bit of quote unquote gambling? When I was doing more of the financial literacy stuff, I just say that lottery is fine as long as it's not the category of investment, it is under entertainment. If it's entertainment, that's great. Right? I spend a bit of money, I just have a bit of fun doing it. Okay, I don't buy that shirt, but I buy a lottery thing. Now, of course, there's every danger of it going haywire and becoming a bad habit, right? So we need to watch that. But once you have those conversations to say that, okay, I like the excitement. So what does it mean for you? And then sometimes it's beyond the money conversation. So where else can you find that excitement of taking risk and all that, I don't know, adventure sport and stuff like that? Because beyond the money conversation, and I think it's important to lay this out, it's also about what are some of our other core life values that we need to bring in, right? Of course, the podcast is really a lot about money, but this opens up the doors for us to talk more about what we value as a couple individually, and as a couple, collectively, what's important for our family.
Thank you so much, CJ, for sharing so much financial wisdom and knowledge with me and the listeners tuning
pleasure.
in. It's been interesting learning about money, isn't it? And I'm sure many listeners have found this valuable as well. Before we let you go, do you have any last words for our listeners?
The last time we talked a little bit about money as an enabler and all that, I just want to read a quote from a gentleman that I really like called Viktor Frankl. And he's a German Holocaust survivor. He survived the horrors of the persecution of the Jews. And he said this, everything can be taken from the man, but there's one thing that cannot be, is the last of it is called the human freedom, right? So I just want to encourage all of us that we all have a choice. Money coaching is not the be-all and end-all. Conversations around what we need to do as a couple is not. But just know that we are all given a choice. And what we do with a choice is important, but we have a choice. So never find ourselves saying that, I'm just like that, I've been hurt before, that's why I don't believe in investments anymore, and stay in the victim mindset. That's not how we want our life to be, right? Make the right choice, make the courageous decision, step by step. I think as we choose correctly, hopefully we all get to a better place with money.
Thank you so much, CJ. In each podcast, we end off with a couple challenge for couples to do and share with each other. So if you're listening to this with your spouse, take the next 5 minutes to chat about which money type you might be and how this might help you both in your marriage. We hope that today's topic has encouraged you and given you some practical handles on how to handle money better and work with your spouse towards your financial and life goals. We also hope you have already subscribed to the Connect 2 podcast and you will share this episode with a friend who may benefit from it. If you find that money is causing recurring problems in your marriage, our counselors are also here to help. Do visit us at family.org.sg/counseling. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take care of yourself and your spouse.